Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Million Dollar Coffee Hour. I am your host, Johnny Lynham, and the founder of REI Genius. And we are officially in the month of December. I can't believe that we are less than 30 days away from 2026. And just looking back on the year, that it has been a great year. Despite the challenges, I think a lot of times we tie our success and our growth to being in a place of contentment or of not going through challenges. But I think the real growth happens when we're stretching ourselves, when we're going through challenges, when we're overcoming adversity. And so I think for me, I know definitely there's been challenges and growth as going into retirement, starting a new career, expanding the business, executing real estate deals, and that there are always challenges that come through the process. A lot of times it's uncomfortable and you're not necessarily seeing the progress real time as you're going through the day-to-day tactical decisions that you're making. But at the end, when you get to December 2025, it's a great time to really reflect on the progress that you have made since the year began. And really, one of the things that really helps kind of go through and perform that review is really understanding the goals that you set for yourself at the beginning of the year. And so really today we're really talking about how to set those goals. Really one big piece of it is reflection and reflecting on 2025. What were the things that you could improve, that you could have done better? What worked? What went really well? What do you need to maybe continue to do going into 26? But there are always opportunities for improvement and ways to change. And so there's no different from that whole process going into next year. And I think one of the things that you really have to do, and I'm going to share this, I think it's not next week, the following week, but really break it down to vision. And so one of the things that I started doing was creating a vision board some years ago. And with that, really setting a vision for my life, for the business for the next 3 years. So really looking out in how do I want 2028 to look, from right now. So we're talking about we're in 2025, but 3 years from now, what does 2028 look like? And really going into 2029. And so a lot of times you really think about it, we are so caught up in the day to day that there's no way that we're talking about 2029. We're barely talking about next week or planning a vacation for spring break or for the summer. And so right now we can't even see Christmas, which is only, less than 3 weeks away. And so one of the things with that is really taking the time to pause, kind of reorient, see what's working, what's not working, and really see where do you want to be? Where do you want your life to be 3 years from now? And not just necessarily on an investing standpoint or real estate standpoint, but from a relationship standpoint, from a health standpoint, from an overall holistic person concept. What are the goals? Where do you want to be in life 3 years from now? And then really start peeling back the onion on what are the steps, what are the decisions, what are the habits that you need to create, what are the tactical decisions, what are the day-to-day tasks that you need to do in order for you to be at your destination that you want to be at 3 years from now. And so I think that's really going into today's discussion where we start talking about setting smart goals for 2026 and really being able to cut through the noise and focus on what's important. So really today is just really going through the smart concept. Some of you may be familiar with it, but really when we start talking about, and I'm going to paint the lens through real estate with going through and setting smart goals for 2026 to give you guys some ideas on how to focus in on what it is that you're looking to accomplish with your real estate portfolio. But a lot of this applies directly to everything day-to-day life and what we're doing and really being intentional with everything that we're doing. Because at the end of the day, our decisions, our habits are going to drive our success. That there's not anything that's exclusive to just the wealthy or those that are well off, that if you focus on the moves and the tactics that are going to lead to success, because success leaves clues. The process to get to Orlando from Washington, D.C. is pretty much the same. You're going to go down I-95. There's a couple different variations to get there. But if you're driving, you're going to go down I-95. You can take some detours. It's going to take longer. But if you're following the plan, you're going to get there in a reasonable amount of time. You may have to take one or two detours to avoid traffic or to avoid accidents along the way, which is completely okay. But the thing is, you have to understand what's the process to get there. And then when we start talking about the vehicle to get us to our destination, is when we really start talking about the different asset classes that are out there. Whether you're looking at the stock market, whether you're looking at single family real estate investor, whether you're looking at small multifamily, larger multifamily, whether you're looking to be a private investor, there are different vehicles that lend themselves to taking the train from here to Orlando, taking driving your own personal car there, taking a bus there where you're not necessarily in control, or hopping on an airplane and you're getting there in less than 3 hours, or with a direct flight, or maybe you have to take a detour and have a connection with a stop in Chicago, then go to Orlando. So there are different asset classes and vehicles that you can leverage to get you to your final destination of where you want to be, depending on how fast you need to get there. If you're someone in late career and you're like, hey, I'm done, I'm getting out of working and I'm walking into the sunset in 5 years, you may need a plane approach to get there, to accelerate, to get there a little bit faster if you're still in DC and maybe you're not down in Atlanta right now. But, if you're younger, in your 20s, your 30s, you're just starting your career, maybe just did a career change, you have time to drive, to take your time, to stop in Charleston and do some sightseeing, to stop in Atlanta this weekend and check out the SEC championship. So you can take some detours and stops and pauses along the way because you have more time. And so that's where we want to look at this and really look at it from a lens of where we are in our own personal journey and our own personal race to make sure we are doing the things that are going to serve us best. And so with that, we'll kind of dive into the goals and really give you guys, like, for my insight, everything that I'm talking about is really coming from life decisions, experience that I've had over a successful 20-year Air Force career, but then also, investing in real estate. I bought my first real estate property using my VA loan back in 2006 in Warner Robins, Georgia, and it opened my eyes to what was possible when it comes to real estate. And from there, I joined the local real estate meetup in Macon, Georgia. I continued to learn real estate through the '08 crash, '09, and then 2010 went off to Intel school for 8 months in San Angelo, Texas. And when I moved to Newport News later that year in 2010, I got turned on to understanding that I had more VA loan entitlement. And then I found out that I could buy a foreclosure with my VA loan. So I bought a HUD foreclosure there in Newport News, Virginia, January 2011. Then from there, a couple years later, I moved to Aldie, Virginia, outside Washington, D.C. in the suburbs, and was able to use my VA loan again to buy another foreclosure the summer of 2013. And after that point, I was hooked. My wife and I, we found a Hub Zoo auction house in Birmingham. We bought for $6,400 later that year. And then in 2014, we bought another Section 8 rental. And then 2015, we took the leap and we created Lineham Enterprises, and we did our first fix and flip project outside Alexandria, Virginia. And from there, we started virtually flipping homes in Birmingham. And then we moved PCS 2017, started doing the exact same thing there in Panama City, Florida after Hurricane Michael, bought our first apartment complex. And since then, we've picked up 4 other complexes there in the Montgomery, Alabama area. And it's been a crazy journey. And through that, in 2021, I wrote the book, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies. And I bring this up to just show you that when you start your journey, when you set goals for your life, that they're going to change, that they're going to evolve. There are going to be people along the way that you're going to meet that are going to have a positive impact on your journey. And you don't know where it's going to necessarily take you. You don't know where those detours on I-95 are going to pop up. And the great people that you're going to meet along the way in the journey that are going to help accelerate your journey, but you're going to meet some people that are going to hold you back, that are going to slow you down in your journey. But that's okay, because that I would argue is where you have the greatest lessons and you have the greatest opportunity for more in the future and to catapult you to your future. And so that's one of the things that I just want to encourage you guys, that wherever you are, wherever you're going, your chapter, your book isn't complete yet, and that you're just getting started. And that you'll have a lot more of your best days and better days are in front of you if you choose to view the world and everything that you're doing and how you're showing up. And so with that today, why goal setting? Why focus in on the goals? The thing is, and Lou Holtz, for those that don't know Lou Holtz, he's a Hall of Fame coach. And one of the things that he said was, if you're bored with life, you don't get up every morning with a burning desire to do things, you don't have enough goals. And at the end of the day, our passion, our goals, what we're striving for each and every day, whether it's our family, whether it's to get our next deal, to get a certain amount of cash flow, to get a certain amount of passive income, to whether it's raising money for our church or whatever it is that drives us, that it should be that powerful, that clear, that yearning that it puts in our spirit, that it's going to get us up every day. We're going to be invigorated. We're showing up. And when I think about service, and I think about those that take on the service of serving in the United States Air Force, me personally, but serving in the military or serving as a clergyman, and just the calling that comes with it, that it becomes more than just a job, and that you become attached to it. I think that's one of the reasons for so many veterans that struggle with transition out of service, because you have that strong ethos, you have that culture around you. You're part of an organization, you're part of a team, and you're part of a mission that's bigger than you. And so for a lot of veterans, as we transition out the service, they are unable to step back into something that fulfilling, that a vision or a mission that is that gravitating, that's pulling them in, that's driving them to be the best that they can be each and every day. And so a lot of times, for those that have never served, that a lot of times when you go to an organization, you don't really care about the vision or the mission. It's a paycheck. And I was watching a video yesterday and was really talking about where a lot of new college grads are coming in, that a lot of times that the buy-in isn't there, the culture isn't there. And so a lot of people are really looking, they're unfulfilled, they're just looking for the paycheck. They're not really set in on the mission, the customer experience on the other side of whatever the product or service is that the company is delivering. And so with that, we end up with a lot of ineffectiveness. So one of the things that with having goals, it gives you focus. Every day you're focused on something, whether you're operating, in an operating room as a physician, what it is your lifelong dream is. If you're in I would say for REI Genius, for me with coaching, you're having conversations with clients about finances, helping them build a financial plan, helping them invest in alternative investments and diversify their portfolio. And so with me, it's a passion. It's a passion showing up every Wednesday and talking about goal setting and talking about real estate investing and the power, because I've seen personally firsthand how it can change my life and how it's changed my life, but also how it's changed other people's lives. And so that's where you have to align your goals and your schedule and your habits in order to fulfill you. And so when we start looking at goals, we have to better understand, okay, what does that look like? We just can't say, hey, I want to be a millionaire next week, and we're not aligning everything properly. And so one of the acronyms that I have picked up along the way, on my own personal journey that I love to talk about, is the SMART goals and setting SMART goals, where we're not just setting random goals out there, but we're setting goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, where you're really going to be particular and you're going to be matter of fact about what it is that you're doing, what's on your schedule, the conversations that you're having, what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to. But then at the same time, there are different benchmarks, and you want to measure that success along the way, when you're not just going to set a goal in January and then you're going to look up in December and say, okay, was I successful? No, we're going to look at, hey, maybe I'm going to look at this weekly. I'm going to look at this monthly. I'm going to look at this quarterly, semi-annually, where now I'm looking at my progress and I'm making course corrections along the way to ensure I'm going to be successful in hitting my mark. And if I'm not going to hit my mark, I want to be really, really close, where I can still see at the end of the year that I made considerable progress on what it is that I'm trying to do. And so with that, we'll jump into specifics. So what does specific mean? But it's simply a specific goal. It gives you a much greater chance of being successful. And so when you're really being specific, you're not being vague. You're not saying, hey, I want to invest in real estate in 2026. No, we're saying, hey, I want to buy my first real estate investment property in the first quarter of 2026, or I want to invest in my first multifamily deal in the first 60 days. I'm going to roll over my previous employer IRA. I'm going to set up my self-directed account, and I'm going to invest in a multifamily fund in the first quarter of 2026 with that money just sitting there. And then now I'm going to be diversified, and then I'm going to build up and save for 6 months, and I'm going to look to do it again before the end of the year. That's a specific goal that you can focus on and move towards, where now you're not just saying arbitrarily, oh, I'm going to invest in real estate next year. Then you look up at the end of the year, you haven't invested in real estate. You haven't invested at all. You haven't got the corporate match at work. And now you're no longer closer to getting to Orlando. as you were at the beginning of the year. You haven't really taken those steps. You haven't got behind the wheel of the whatever the preferred vehicle of choice, whether it's on the plane to sit back, whether it's you driving, whether it's you walking down I-95. It's going to take you a heck of a long time to get there, but you got to start moving and figure out what's the vehicle of choice, whether it's your shoes, it's your car, it's your train, or it's going to be an airplane. You got to start taking steps to get towards your final destination. And so with that, you just got to have a specific goal. And so one of the things I challenge you guys to write down 3 specific goals for each area of life. I would say you want to have 3 specific wealth or investing goals. So 3 goals centered around wealth, looking at investing, doing deals. I watched a video yesterday. I'm gonna do a response video for YouTube but they interviewed, I think it may have been CNBC, but they interview individuals that were still working over 80 years old. I don't cry often. I came close because it was so sad. And really understanding, to hear someone say that they were a failure, regardless of what age that you are, but someone to say that they were a failure. But one of the things they went through, and it was 3 or 4 individuals, but they really went through their life, and they kind of went through one lady talked about how she was a hippie, just kind of free flowing jobs, and she looked back over her life and she really said, she wished she had went to college. She wished she had focused on education and made better choices along the way, where now she wasn't driving for Uber. I think she was maybe 84 years old. And the thing is, like, the decisions that we make today are going to impact, and they're going to have consequences on later in life. And so the thing is, like, God forbid, thankfully they're in great health where they're still able to work, but it's a grind. They talk about the pain, being on your feet all day. And, at that age where they envision their life being different in their 80s, but the decisions, and they talked about investing, they talked about wishing they had a plan. They wishing they had really sat down and got better with their money and started taking advantage of compounding interest by being able to invest early. So that video really struck me, that you have to have a plan for your life in general, not just talking about investing in real estate, but you got to have goals. So, one of the things I want to challenge each and every one of us is to really sit down and set 3 goals next year on your investments, for your wealth, on your real estate, what you're looking to do. But then also set 3 goals when it comes down to your health. What can you do to improve your health? How you're showing up for yourself, how you're taking care of yourself, whether it's going, hey, I want to go to the gym twice a week, or I want to fast 1 day a week, or I want to, just get the gym membership, or maybe I want to get out and walk with my spouse, in the evenings twice a week, whatever it is, figure out what it is to you, but set a health goal as well. I would say set three things that you can improve with your health, but then also set relationship goals, whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you have friends. Understand how can you improve the relationships and who is in your circle, because that is one of the things that I now have really, really, as I was setting the 3-year vision over the last few weeks for REI Genius and where we're going, and and now being a financial advisor, one of the things that I really had to take hold of was being intentional with the relationships that I have today and the relationships that I'm building in the future that can help get me to where I want to go, and the people that are trying to go to the same place. Because how cool would it be to drive to DC to Orlando on a bus full of friends of people that want to go, that are looking to go to Orlando. They're not looking to go to California. They're not looking to go to Oklahoma, but they want to go to Orlando. They want to go to Disney World. They want to go to Epcot Center. They want to go hang out in Orlando. How cool would it be to go with a bunch of your friends right there on the same bus? And so one of the things that I really became focused on, intentional over the next 3 years of REI Genius, is bringing in the right individuals, the right people, into people that are looking to go to the same destinations, where we start talking about having authentic and real relationships, being able to invest and build wealth, but at the same time that are looking to be more impactful in the community and give back at the same time. And so really being intentional in that space with relationships is going to be critical to you being able to achieve your success or whatever it is that you're looking to achieve. Because guess what? There's no need for you to go and maybe if you want to, go and build a gym in your garage and buy tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, where you can just go down to a gym down the street where there's a ton of people in there that have the same mindset. It's the vehicle that's going to get you there, but you don't have to do all the work. and buy all the equipment, that you can just walk in 24 hours and show up. They already got the equipment. You didn't have to put the money into it or anything, but now you're able to take advantage of it. And so that's one of the things, to be intentional with your relationships and what you're doing, but then also your professional development. That progress and success isn't an accident. It's never an accident. There's no such thing as overnight success. And the thing is that it takes, I would say the word that I heard someone say, sticky to itness or stick it to itness. That is not a real word, but it really describes what it has to do. You have to have grit. You have to be consistent. You have to show up in the good days and the bad days. Even when it's raining outside or it's snowing, you still have to show up for yourself because you're committed to getting to your destination at your set time. And so from the professional development side, I challenge you guys to at least attend one event, to go through, look at the events that happened this year that usually happen the same time or around the same time as next year. Look for specific events that you can go to grow professionally, to maybe to grow your relationships. One of the things that we have REIGs on the 3-year vision is looking to have quarterly in-person events, to set up a couples retreat, an annual couples retreat. That's something on the list over the next 3 years that we're going to break out with the different goals. And so being able to be intentional with your time. So now when 2026 comes together, you have specific goals for your relationship, specific goals for your investing, specific goals for your professional development. Now you're not going through 2026 unaware of what you're going to do, that you already know, hey, March, I'm looking to try to go out. I'm going to go to Dubai to an investor conference. In July, I'm taking the family to this event. Or, here, we're going to do one date night per week, even if it's at home. And we're going to go do one date night outside of the house and go out for at least 4 hours once a month. That I'm going to spend at least 4 hours with each one of my kids individually once a quarter, and with no cell phones, to be intentional, to foster the time with them. And that's one of the things when we start talking about specific goals, that for those that have kids, you may not realize this, but by the time your child turns 18 to graduate from high school, at that point, you would have spent 90% of the time that you're going to spend with them their entire life by the time they turn 18. I didn't realize that till I read a book and was going through and really thinking about it, that, think about it. You go off to college, and I looked at my own life. I went off to college, moved out, then I joined the Air Force now 20 years later, retiring, and I lost my mom in 2021. And I look back and was like, yeah, pretty much most of that time, we'll see him a couple times a year, with travel. I was blessed. My last duty station, I was 3 hours away from home. That was the closest I ever had been to home. And it was great. They got a lot of time to spend with the grandkids, travel. They could come see us, stay for a week, come to the beach and all that. So they were really great times. And I'm really thankful and blessed to have those 3 years, because less than a year after moving, November 20, I lost my mom, June of 21, 7 months later. And so I was thankful for those 3 years that I have the Air Force, with being so close to home and having that quality time. And so the thing is, like, you want to be specific. And so being, available and in my kids' lives, that's goal number one. And so really not building a company in a way that takes me away from that goal, or where I have to separate the two, where it can be merged together. So you really want to be specific in all those areas. So we're going to come up with goals for wealth, investing, but then also relationships, but then also professional development as well, too, as we go into 2026. Next up, we're going to make sure those goals that we set in those areas, they got to be measurable. We have to be able to measure progress. So when we start talking about metrics and we want to track the data, okay, how many deals do we want to do in 26? Well, okay, we want to do 3 deals. Okay, that's one deal essentially every 3.5 months, or 3 months and a week. And so after that, okay, how many deals do you want? Okay, what type of marketing are we going to do for those deals? We want to be able to measure the progress. So now understand, if I'm going to reach out, I'm going to join a community that has deal flow. REIG is one of the things that we're really doing next year. I got CoStar access. We signed up a couple weeks ago. We have CoStar access, so we have all the commercial real estate data across the United States, actually outside the United States as well too. That CoStar is global, and so that's one of the things that we're looking at doing, is setting up marketing, bringing in deals in certain areas where the community is looking to invest, where operators within the community are looking to buy deals, where we can have data to go out, start marketing direct to owners, and we have our niche list that we want to focus on owners, because you can focus on different things. You can focus on multifamily deals in distress, self-storage deals that are in distress, deals that where there's an elderly owner, or the deal is owned by a trust, or there's a low occupancy rate. There's so many different metrics in the data where you can find out where's there distress or challenges that an operator has that may lend themselves to want to sell a property off market. And so that's one of the things, really the big ones, when we start looking at age, and where a lot of baby boomers who are self-managed, that are looking to fully completely retire now, that they want to get out of the day-to-day ownership um, challenges that come with self-managing real estate, are looking to sell. And I've bought multiple apartment complexes from individuals that were up in age, that no longer wanted to be involved with the day-to-day operations and asset management. And we put great deals together. And so being able to target those individuals, to show them how they can help. And now I come from a different vantage point as a financial advisor, just because I see all the exit strategies and the off ramps on how they can maximize their return on selling their asset, but then also they can invest that money in a DS, a Delaware Statutory Trust. They can invest that money into a qualified opportunity zone where they can defer capital gain taxes. They can put that asset in a trust, or move it into a trust and invest in a deal where it's completely passive. They're getting cash flow, they're deferring taxes, and now they can build a legacy for their next generation. And so all those things now are thrusts that we're looking to do and bring in to the community as we go, and making sure that we're being measurable how we're making progress. So being able to have those KPIs, or key performance indicators, where it's like, hey, I want to get one deal. I need to talk to X amount of brokers. I need to send X amount of direct mail to owners that have owned for at least 5 years, that are over the age of 50 years old, and their loan is coming due within 365 days. Okay, I want to send a mail to all these multifamily owners in the markets that I care about. And we're going to have a campaign that goes through, show them the value, how REI Genius can help them liquidate their assets and sustain their legacy and accomplish those goals on the back end. And so that's one of the things that I'm super excited about. But the thing is, you want to be able to measure progress on the investments, making sure that you're diversifying. The time to diversify is now. Where we are right now with the market and all the gains that we have had over the last couple of years, is really looking at, hey, is my portfolio in balance? Do I need to reallocate in different areas with all the growth that I've had going on? If so, you probably need to have a plan in place on where you're going, to make sure that, hey, where you are today, will it serve you? Will your portfolio support you 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And if you don't know the answer is a resounding yes, then you need to make sure to go back to the drawing board, make sure that you have a plan that's in place, that's where you have uncorrelated investments, and you're looking across the board, you're not taking on too much risk, and you're really, really comfortable with where you are going forward, and making sure that you have that clarity as you go into 2026. And then measuring progress, we talked about it. When you start talking about relationships, like, hey, my buddies, I want to foster a relationship with my high school buddies that we keep together. Like, hey, let's do a golf trip once a year. And how can we measure progress on that? Easy. With my wife, it's like, hey, we want to have a date night once a week where it's just us, quiet time, talk about what's going on with us, with the kids. What are we looking to do? And are we hitting our budgeting goals? Are we hitting our investing goals together? And being able to measure progress. Okay, we missed last week. Okay, now we did 3 out of 4 weeks last month. All right, how can we get to 100%, 4 out of 4 meetings where we're not having to go? Because there are going to be setbacks and things along the way, but measuring progress allows us to change our habits and change how we're showing up in order to make sure that we stay on track when it comes to performance. And then measuring progress, we talked about the professional development events. Hey, pick 2, pick 3. And then progress is really easy. Did you go? Did you not go? When you're going to those events, what's the number one takeaway? What are some of the things you're looking to accomplish when you go? You don't just go to go. You go on purpose, because you should be going because this event is going to lead to you, whether it's strengthen your relationships with individuals that can help your business, where you can add value to others, where you can find synergy with other organizations that you can continue to help them accomplish what they're doing, but they can also help you accomplish your goals that you set for yourself. So everything that you want to do, you want to be intentional with your time and with your calendar, where now there aren't any surprises when you're going through at the end of the year, because you've been on purpose with everything that you've done throughout the entire 2026. And so we want to make sure those goals are measurable, but at the same time, we want to make sure that they're attainable. We want to have realistic goals, that if you're, at the point where, hey, I'm starting my business and I want to take my business to $1 billion in revenue next year. That's unrealistic because if you're starting out and you don't have some new technology, you're not solving world hunger, you're not solving all the world cancers, then the value that you bring to the marketplace may not be that substantial to have that level of adoption to go to bring in that type of revenue. So we want to make sure that the goals that we're setting are attainable. That hey, if you are, you haven't been in the gym in a year, then you're going to come back and like, hey, I want to be able to bench press 400 pounds in 6 weeks. You're like, okay, that probably isn't attainable if you haven't ever even lifted 200 pounds. But you want to make sure that the goal is attainable, is realistic. And so as you're going through that, you want to figure out the ways that you can make this come true. It's like, okay, buy one real estate property. Well, I know Johnny, has bought multiple properties in a year. He's bought multiple multifamily in a year. So it's doable. Let me see his plan. How did he make it successful? Okay, I've seen so-and-so that has a successful marriage and they make time to go on date nights once a month. We're like, okay, let me put that on the calendar. That's doable. But like, hey, can I say, hey, we're going to go on 20 date nights out of 30 days in a month? That's unrealistic. And we're both working, or we have 3 kids that all play sports. That's unrealistic. But you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and that your goals that you're making at the end of the day, that they're attainable. And then relevant. It's got to be relevant. We talked about some relevant areas. We're not just talking about real estate investing and talking about building wealth, but then also you want to make sure you're talking about your health. You want to talk about your relationships, your professional development. So make sure that all these goals that you care about them, that they're relevant to what your overall objective is for your life. That maybe you don't really care about the relationships. Well, if that's you, okay, so be it. But the thing is, you want to make sure that everything that you're doing each and every day is relevant to your end goal. And so if you go into, going out every weekend, I'll say for the more younger individuals that going out every weekend, partying Friday night, Saturday night, brunch on Sundays, that that if that is that relevant to you building wealth? Is that relevant to you building a great relationship with your spouse if you're doing those things? Or is it relevant to you being healthy, consuming a lot of alcohol? So things like that you have to look at, what the actions that you're doing, are they actually relevant to the objectives that you have for your life? And so when we start talking about those areas, those pillars of finding success, you want to look at, hey, wealth, health, uh, relationship. Those are kind of the big three. I think it was Ken McElroy. He was saying he's 64 years old, owns thousands of apartment units with his syndication company, and he was just talking about one of the regrets that he has. Really successful was the relationships and be working so hard, working too hard, that being able to really take a step back and foster those relationships is something that he wish he had done along the way of building success and not going so hard, because there's a challenge. There are trade-offs that you have to make along the way with being successful. One of the great things that I learned about the late great Kobe Bryant was he was sharing how he put his routine of how he trained and practiced around his kids. And because one would think that he was completely consumed with being great, with being the best athlete. But one of the things that really gravitated me to him even more, after learning how he set, after he retired, how he set his workout schedule along his being there for his family. And so he figured out one of the things. He was like, if I get up 3 hours earlier, then I can get one extra workout in a day. And if I get one extra workout in a day over the course of a year, and I'm working out 4 days a week, time 52, I can get in over 200 more workouts than the next guy that's only working out twice a day. And so he would get up 4 a.m. in the morning, work out, come back home, be there to see the girls when they're waking up, get them off to school, then go back to the gym, work out again at 10, come back home from lunch, come back home, lunch, be there when they get home, spend time with them, then go and get an evening workout. And it brought a whole nother level of when you start talking about intentionality and being intentional with the decisions that you make, being intentional with your schedule, being intentional with your objectives, with understanding that, one objective is always going to supersede the other. And for the outside, a lot of people may have thought that, being the greatest basketball player he could be was the number one objective, but being there for his family was the number one objective, but you just didn't necessarily see it. But his time and his schedule showed it, because how he set everything up around his schedule to make sure he was there for those special events, for being there and being present for the girls when they're going to school. And so the thing is, the same thing that we have to take that approach with understanding and being clear on what our objective is on what we're doing, because one thing you have to do is you got to know that you're going to have to be willing to put in the work, willing to put in the sacrifice, willing to get punched in the face and get back up and go through adversity and go through the challenges in order to get to your objective, because they're not just going to give it to you at the end of the day. And so I think the thing that we have to understand that everything that we're doing on our calendar each and every day has to be relevant. It has to be serving us. One of the big things that I had to do from a leadership perspective was to ramp down my military goals, my Air Force goals. And so it's one of the humbling things to do is to, have a senior leader come to you like, hey, I want to put you in. I think there's some material leader jobs coming up that you would be relevant for, that you would be competitive, and to really look in the mirror and say, hey, I appreciate that, sir, but I'm not going to put my name in the hat. I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to put my name in the list for a job. And so the thing is, you have to be, because once you do that, once you say no, it's really not a lot of opportunities to come back. Once you take that off ramp on your career, it's really hard to get back on to the interstate and keep things going. And so, but for me, I understood my long-term goal that, already has been successful in real estate, been successful as a business owner. And I knew I was only going to 20 years. And so I had to make the decision, like, you know what, if going in and taking a material leader position is going to be a whole nother level of responsibility, time commitment, that I don't necessarily want to. I'm gonna have to move to another position, and then have to position myself afterwards for the next thing. And it was like there was just too much sacrifice for the other objectives that I had for my life, and being able to serve in another capacity and serve so many more people than just one individual unit. And so I had to make that the decision and sacrifice it. Like, hey, these goals, this is the number one goal. And now the military is going to have to be the second highest goal, with being able to not move, to keep my family in one location. I was at was picking up some medicine for one of the kids yesterday in the pharmacy, and I saw an old buddy of mine that served with me at the National Reconnaissance Officer. He was there, he was in uniform, and I was joking. I was like, "Hey," I'm like, "What's going on, Colonel?" And that was funny. That's the first person I've seen in military since I retired that I could call him Colonel. And we were laughing, but he was there. He was just talking about the sacrifice. His wife is a '06. He's a Lieutenant Colonel '05, and she had to turn down a job just because it was going to take her out of the area. She was going to have to potentially go to Colorado, miss their kid's senior year in high school. She was going to have to be absent. He would stay here, and then probably once in that job, and then the other kid is having Division I opportunities for soccer, and the other kid is really great in crew. And it was just talking about the family side of it and the sacrifices they would have had to make if she took that job. And so she turned the job down in order to stay in the DC area a little bit longer. And so the thing is, and he's separated because it didn't make sense for both of them to stay in with just where the kids were with the family. And with her kid, they had to make that sacrifice and decide who stays in, who gets out. And so the thing is, you have to be clear on what your objective is. And so so many of us, we don't have plans, we don't have goals, and we're doing ourselves a disservice. Because like the video I talked about with the 80-year-olds that are still working, a lot of them talk about they didn't have a plan. They didn't take it serious. Or, they're in a position now where they wish they had done things different. But you and I don't have to be there. The wisdom comes from learning from other people's mistakes. And so that's where we are today, that we got to make sure that everything that we are doing, the actions that we are taking, it has to be relevant to the objectives that we have for our lives. And so if you don't have clear objectives for your life when it comes to, being able to how to invest and what that looks like, get on my calendar. Let's have a conversation. That's why REI Genius is here. We create geniuses when it comes to building wealth and entrepreneurship. That's what we're here for. And so that's where the objective is, that you have to have that objective for your life when we start talking about something being relevant to what it is that you're doing on a daily basis. And then the T, it has to be timely. Where are my procrastinators? Hopefully we don't have any procrastinators on the call, but it has to be timely. You have to set a goal that has to be time bound. When are you going to get there? That's important, because guess what? If you need to get to Orlando today, then you're probably the only way you're going to get there. Well, you could drive overnight, but if you want to get there in 3 hours, you need to be on the plane. If you need to get there in 10 years, you got all kind of routes that you can get there, ways and adventures. You can get on a bicycle and just travel and just take your time and eventually get there, because you don't need to be there till 10 years. And so being timely with your goals will really help you laser focus on the amount of action and the amount of tenacity that you need to attack these goals, because it's a marathon for most. And the thing is, the last thing that you want to do is start a marathon, but you don't want to take your first step until 2 hours into the marathon and then expect that you're going to win and that you're going to finish at a time that you're a respectable time that you'll be proud of. And so the thing is, you have to be timely with the goals that you set. So making sure that, hey, you're gonna do that, you're gonna get that one rental property, but how much are you gonna get your we're gonna give? If you have the money right now, why are you waiting till the end? We're gonna give yourself a year to do something that you can get done in a quarter, with finding the deal, getting the deal, put financing in place, and then closing on it. And so you want to make sure that you have a sense of urgency and you're timely. You're not procrastinating. You're not letting fear take over. False evidence appearing real. At the end of the day, and so when you're going through and understanding that you want to be time bound, that hey, if you want to foster better relationship with your spouse, that you're like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. We're gonna do one date night a year. Like what? That's not timely. You probably should do one date night a month or weekly or whatever it is. Or if you want to build $10,000 of passive income with your portfolio and you're 25 years old, you need to start investing. At least a couple $100 a month. Pick up an investment property in the next 2 years, your first one, or pick up an apartment complex in the next 3 years where you can put a down payment. But if you're, age 50, your execution is going to look a lot different than someone that's 25 years old. Or if you're 60, your execution is going to look a lot different. But the thing is, and I'm here to tell you that there is still time to execute. And one of the big things that I see with so many people that want to invest and want to get into real estate, they don't realize the power of their retirement accounts, their 401ks, forgotten 401ks with previous employers, and being able to reallocate that money into buying real assets. One of the examples I did during our last 401k workshop, I talked about buying $1 million apartment complex inside of your self-directed IRA, taking $200,000 as a down payment in your self-directed IRA, getting a loan, because there's banks that loan your IRA money, getting a loan, buying up $1 million property in your self-directed IRA is producing $5,000 a month in cash flow. That $5,000 a month of cash flow is a deposit each and every month to your and that cash flow is after all your expenses and paying your mortgage. That goes into your self-directed IRA. So now putting 200,000 in this property, boom! Now you're bringing in $60,000 a year of income. So over 10 years, it's adding $600,000 of cash flow that's coming into your account. Then you also have the property appreciation over 10 years, 5% appreciation. That's 50% appreciation. Now that property is worth $1.5 million. So now your IRA that you started with putting 200,000 in, buying an apartment complex, and now you're at $600,000 of cash flow that's coming to that self-directed IRA. And now the asset that the IRA owns is not 1 million when you bought it. Now it's 1.5 million in value. And so that's the thing that you have to realize, that there are different strategies and ways that you can use the resources you have today to help you build wealth, to help you get back on track, to help you get back on your timeline to accomplish the goals that you want to. But you have to think about it different, because the way the old adage and the old planning that you have out there of going to work for 40 years to live off 40% and only take 4% of your money each year to live off on, those days are long gone for most people. Not to say it doesn't exist, but for most people in the lifestyle and where inflation is today, that you have to blend in owning real assets with your overall equities and your stocks that you own in your portfolio in order to make sure that you have enough to get you to your final destination of where you want to be. Because we're all living longer, we're staying in better health. And, with that, with the health, that there are situations where you have long-term care costs, long-term care needs that are out there. And that, if you're having to have assisted living and pay $8,000 a month for a facility for 2 years for a loved one or for a spouse, that can easily, wipe out a lot of resources that you have saved in retirement. So there's different strategies out there and things that you need to talk to, but that's why you have to have a plan. You have to make sure that your goals are timely, and everything that you're doing, you have a sense of urgency for all these things at the end of the day, because they are important for everything that we're trying to build, especially when we start talking about legacy and doing those things. So why goal setting matters? it's data to action. We're taking account of everything that needs to happen, and we're being able to take the data and synthesize it. So this really, talk about real estate and the market data. When I talk about the silver tsunami and how we're going to help baby boomers and individuals with a certain demographic over 50 years old own the property 5 years, less than 1 year left on the loan. We're getting that data, and now we can be laser focused on who we're having conversations with, who own the assets that we want to buy, and we can help them liquidate those assets and add value to them, where it's a win-win for us buying the asset and being able to force appreciation and build wealth and equity, but then also for them to do it in a manner where they can save on the taxes, they can build and preserve their legacy and move on to the next chapter of their life. But it all is centered on having the right data. But then also defining success. And I think going into 2026, it shouldn't be a dollar figure. Don't let a dollar figure drive everything that you do in your life, because success is not tied to a certain amount. We say $1 million, that's like the grandiose number, but you can be extremely successful without having $1 million in the bank. Because I would argue that the best things in life are free. And I gave the example of Ken McElroy talking about, with all the success he's found monetarily, that he wished he invested more in relationships. And he thought one of the coolest things was the relationship with his son. His son stopped by his house and just hung out for an hour just because, and hanging out. And he was like, that was really cool for have his 20 some odd year old son just want to come hang out with his dad and do that. And so that's the thing, that you can't put a price on relationships, on love, peace, joy, contentment, and those things. But at the same time, we want to be realistic with how we can be a good steward of the resources, because I go back to the parable of in the Bible about the master that left the servants the talents, and you had the one guy that buried the talents. The one that had five, he doubled it to 10. The one that had two, he doubled his to four. Then you had the one who had the one talent that he said his master was a shrewd man. He went and buried it, and the master came back and he took the one and gave it to the one with 10. So the thing is, we have to be a good steward with our resources. We can't just sit here and squander our time, be unproductive, to be unmotivated, not to have goals for our life. That we have to define what success looks like for ourselves. If it's being present for our kids, being there with them every day, dropping them off at school, picking them up, making all the sports games, making the practices, or coaching their team, at the same time of building wealth where you can give them a head start on their business, or if they want to go to college or whatever it is. But being able to have that clarity on what success means to you in your investments, your health, your relationships, is going to give you a great life, and your community, and the piece with the philanthropic side of it, with giving back to organizations, whether it's your church that are doing things for the community, or if it's different nonprofits that are having a positive impact in the community. That you define what success looks like. And so that's what we're all about with REI Genius. We're building geniuses that are able to take back control of their lives in every individual pillar of their life, not just on the wealth side, but then when we start talking about the health and relationships, where you can live a fulfilling life in every aspect of it. And then disciplined decisions, create that roadmap for the decision making, accountability. Know where you want to be. You know that these months are coming. Find out the things that you want to do in these months, and time bound it. Put it on the calendar. Put it on the schedule. Bring it in journaling and documenting your journey each and every day, where you can drive that success that you want to achieve. And then with that, at the end of the day, some things for thought when it comes to the 2026 roadmap. Review your portfolio, set those smart goals, make sure you align your allocation, make adjustments if things are, you may have run up greatly. You're 80% in stocks, 80% of your portfolio in stocks. Maybe we need to look at redistribution. So think about it. Hey, can I take some of this capital in this area and maybe buy a real asset, buy a multifamily in my retirement account, or maybe look at doing some alternative investments that can lower my risk profile. Now I have more uncorrelated investments that aren't all tied to the market. And so understand where you are from an allocation standpoint, schedule reviews, build. If you don't have a financial plan, talk to me. You need to have a financial plan, because if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. And then understanding how you're going to have that impact, and what does that legacy look like, whether it's your own life, whether it's your broader family, and make sure that you have that built into your planning at the end of the day. And one of the great resources that we have is the Millionaire Wealth Blueprint. It's an 8-week blueprint to kind of help you guys get going and laying out everything from the mindset, how to dig into the deals and everything. So for those that are in the REI Genius community, definitely reach out. You have it in the school community to download that, and that is a great asset that kind of gives you a plan to help you put it out where you're not going in this alone. You're not trying to figure it out haphazardly by yourself and wondering if you're doing it right. But it's an 8-week mission to help you build wealth on so many levels and go through. So if you're looking and you're interested in coming in and building out your millionaire wealth blueprint, definitely book a call with me. And if you're interested in joining the community, would love to have you. And I'm gonna lay out here, I think it's 2 weeks from now, or just the 3-year vision for REI Genius and the community and what we're building. And if you're interested in being part of the community, would love to have a conversation and what that looks like, and go from there. And so with that, I'll open the floor up for any questions that we have for today's presentation. I wasn't necessarily planning on going the full amount of time to talk through this, but I think some of the different areas really came out that I wanted to kind of expound on and get some personal examples along the way as well too, because this is extremely serious. Where we are right now, we look at the inflation, the uncertainty in the economy, where things are at right now. At no point in time has there been, I would say, this much uncertainty. With potential wars in South America, we still have everything going on in the Middle East, and where we are right now, I would say, with the division in the nation, we start talking about politics and things, a lot of things that don't really matter, because at the end of the day, it doesn't move the needle in your own personal life. That we have to remove the distractions with social media and a lot of the things that we don't and can't control, and understand what do I need to be doing personally that's going to move the needle in my life. Not really to be selfish like that, but the thing is that if no one has resources, then I can't give resources to anybody if I don't have resources. And to understand that, once you understand that and being intentional, that you're able to blot out the noise and the opinions and how people are wanting, the emotions that people want to inflict on you, and how you to feel, that are going to slow you down from being able to hit those goals and those objectives that you're setting for yourselves. So definitely open it up. Let's see if we have any comments, Faye, as we go through. But no, this is great. Love goal setting, and definitely stay tuned. We're going to get the vision out, the 3-year vision for REI Genius, what we're building with the community, with the wealth focus, the deals that we're looking, and just how everyone can get plugged in on what we're doing with our mission and how they can fit in. And the other thing, that it's not just me. That REI Genius is not just me, that we're bringing in the right talent. So if you got talents, you have a vision and skill set that you think aligns with where our mission is, we'd love to have a conversation on how we can align and the synergies that we can bring together, because it's not going to just be me, that there's going to be a lot of go-getters that are out there and superstars that have great talent and that can bring their skill set in, that are going to continue to make this and turn this into a movement. And what we're doing, we're helping build wealth and helping others take control of their finances, but also their health and their relationships all at the same time, and build a fulfilling life. So that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So for all you guys on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. LinkedIn, give us a follow. One of the cool things, we actually just hit 10,000 followers in the Alabama real estate investor, real estate agent Facebook group, and it was crazy, the same day, 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is really cool. One of the big things for me was being intentional on LinkedIn, and really we started, I think we were around 4,000 April of last year, and just being consistent with bringing in the newsletters and posting and everything to go from 4,000, 10,000 followers. It's really cool. And it's not really about, a follower count or anything, but really for me, it's the impact with just being able to touch more people, and now really setting this 3-year vision and plan and getting it out there to the masses is really what we're doing, where we can serve in a larger capacity and bring it all together. So you guys be blessed. We're going to December. Set those goals for yourself. Don't do yourself a disservice. Sit down, take some time when you leave the job today, or finishing up your business. Sit down and set some time up for yourself. Do this for you. Build out the life for you, because you have to become the best CEO of your last name at the end of the day. And we're here to give you the tools to be successful. Let's go. Let's make some equity happen together in 2026. Book your call. Get on the calendar. You guys know how to find me, and I'll see you next week.